Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Her Inspired Mind podcast. Today, I have a very special guest, a very powerful and impactful woman. I just want to share a little bit about her. Her name is Theresa Fackler, or Coach T, as a lot of people call her. She is the owner of Envision Train Fitness in Lancaster, PA. She's married to her sweetheart, and that was after 24 years of a breakup. I would love to hear that part. And she has a beautiful daughter who just recently got married. She has a grand dog and a new dog mom to her doodle, Layla. Her background was not in fitness. It happened upon after a breakup from a mentally abusive breakup, which she will be sharing with us. Fell in love with it, and the story goes from there. She also owns an online business that runs perfectly in alignment with her gym. Her goal in fitness is to help others find a fitness routine that they love, works well with their bodies, and to show others how fun it can be. And it's not something that you dread doing. And she was also a fitness instructor for 10 years at local gyms before becoming a personal trainer and building her own fitness business or empire. Thank you, Theresa, for being here today.
Oh my gosh, thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Yes, me too. This has been a long time needed to come, but I think it's in the perfect timing, right?
It always is.
Yes,
Always is.
yes. So tell us a little bit about, your story. We're in the middle of Domestic Violence Awareness Month, right? And you
hmm
and I spoke a little bit about your story. So if you could just share a little bit about your story, and then we can go from there.
Sure. You know what? It doesn't normally choke me up because it's been so many years, but
Mm,
literally just now I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm tearing up just thinking about this. And I think
yeah.
it's more because of last night at our gym. I have a free class to anybody that goes to our church. It's once a month. And a woman came in and afterwards we were talking, and it sounds like she went through some of the same things I did. So I think it's kind of carryover. So if my voice kind of quivers,
Mm,
just
it's
bear with
okay,
me.
girl.
Oh, I even put mascara on today for some reason, and I'm already kind of like, oh no, is it going to run?
You know what? I love the vulnerability because I feel like, when we're vulnerable, we're just being raw and real. And that's what I
hmm
love. And I try to do in this podcast of mine is just to be as real and authentic as possible so that the listeners can really connect with us.
All right. So number one, I didn't know it was Domestic Abuse Awareness Month. Um, that is really near and dear to my heart.
Mm,
I talk about it in the gym. People that go to our go to our website can watch a video that talks about it. At
mm,
least talks about what a little bit of what I went through
yeah.
and why I started the gym. So, man, it is. Let's see. It has to be about 20 years ago now,
Mm,
literally
okay.
almost 20 years ago that after my first marriage had failed, I ended up in a relationship with this guy who's like 8 years younger than me. And it was all, you know how it is, it's all great in the beginning, it's all
Mhm,
fun, all of that. And then little by little, he started I started actually learning about some lies that he told me, like his age. Number one, he ended
mm.
up being 8 years younger than me, which I think I was like 35 years old at the time. And I was like, oh my gosh, this guy is in his 20s. I'm in my mid 30s. What the heck? But of course, then there was another lie on top of another lie.
Mm,
And then just over the course of the next 6 months, it happened very quickly, actually, 6 months to a year.
mhm,
Um, I found myself wrapped up in like this web of um of horror almost looking
mm.
back.
Wow.
And it's like he made me feel like I was crazy. And
Mm,
I know that anybody who has gone through this can be like, oh my gosh, I can so relate. It
yeah.
was just like sometimes I'm like, wait a minute, this happening? Is
Mm,
all of this happening right now? Did I misunderstand that? Did I say something the wrong way? Walking on eggshells all the
mm,
time. I mean, to the point of where, so my daughter was close to 10 years old at the time, and when
mhm,
it started, and when I finally got away from him, like a year and a half later, um, she had been sleeping in my bed this whole
mm,
time. And literally we broke up and she started sleeping in her bed. And I was
Mm.
like, and I asked her, I'm like, later on, a couple years later, I'm like, honey, when we were talking about it, I said, honey, I said, how come you slept in my bed all that time? And immediately after Corey and I broke up, you went to your bed. And she goes, because she said, because I wanted to be with you as much as possible because I was afraid at some point you weren't going to come home because I didn't know what he was going to do to you.
Wow.
And
I
I
just
was
got
like,
goosebumps.
man, that's
Wow.
like that for your 10-year-old daughter to
Mm.
realize it, even, when you weren't realizing it at the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a lot of mental abuse, a lot of really pushing me down, telling me I wasn't worth anything, that
Mm.
nobody was going to love me, because I had a daughter. I mean,
Mm.
come on, it was seriously, it made absolutely no sense, but yet he had me believing it.
Yeah.
And I feel for anybody, male or female,
Mm-hmm.
that goes through what I did,
Yeah.
um, or any kind of, abuse,
Mm-hmm.
because it's like they really just take a knife and chisel away at your heart and just leave so many holes,
Mm.
and you just want to hide that because you're embarrassed. I was embarrassed
Mm.
of what I had allowed to happen, and I had no idea how to get out,
Wow.
and how to get my heart out of that, because I think in some level as well, I was just yearning for somebody to love me and want to be
Mm.
with me after my divorce. I was searching for something and I didn't realize that I was searching in the wrong direction.
Mm. That's
Thankfully,
powerful. I want to
yeah.
talk about that a little bit, you know, because I just made a video the other day. A lot of times people will question, well, why don't you just get out? If you're in an abusive relationship and they're not treating you right, why don't you just get out? And I think that you touched on, a few good points. Like, first of all, you were trying to even realize, am I in abuse? Like, you kind of thought you were, but you were confused, but you really wanted to be loved. And then you said you felt embarrassed.
Hmm.
Can we talk a little bit about the isolation that women or people
Oof.
who are being abused go through?
Yeah. So I can just speak for myself, obviously,
Yeah.
but I remember I was afraid to even tell my dad what was happening.
Mm.
Um, I was afraid to tell, my friends what was happening. Thank goodness I had a friend who I worked with that saw all of it
Okay.
and realized what was happening. But
Mm.
yeah, it's that lonely feeling. It's that feeling of, okay, well, you don't realize at the time, but you've been pushed so far down under and made to feel like you're not worth anything, that it's like, well, if I leave, then I have nothing.
Mm.
Then what?
Yeah.
And that abyss is probably, I think, the hardest thing to face, is that dark hole that you don't you that you just don't know what next.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I can honestly say that my daughter is the one that pulled me through everything.
Mm.
That even when in my darkest time, right, what as we were breaking up, and I was just like, if it wasn't for her, I probably wouldn't be here.
Mm.
And thank God for her. And she saved my life. I had cancer when she was born, so she saved my life.
Oh,
And I thought,
wow.
I cannot do that to my daughter. I
Mm.
can't take away what she gave to me. And so that was probably the most powerful thing to come out of it.
Wow.
That and then the healing journey after.
Mm. Wow. That's crazy. I didn't know that about you, that
Oh,
when she
didn't
was
you?
born. No, I didn't know that.
Hmm. Yep. Yeah.
Wow. So she
Yep.
kind of saved your life twice.
That, yes, there's no kind of about it. Yeah, it
Wow.
is hands down that as far as the cancer goes, the oncologist said if she would not have been born when she was, that they would have never found I had cervical cancer. So they would have never found it
Oh,
because of
okay.
all the layers that are washed away, when you have
Mm.
a baby
Yeah.
and inside, and that in 2 years from then I would have been dead.
Wow.
Yeah. So
I gotta meet your daughter.
oh yeah.
Let's
Oh
make
yeah.
that happen.
Okay.
She's
No
such a ray
problem
of
whatsoever.
light.
You will absolutely love her.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, it's, I think for women, a lot of times our children are what save us. Like,
Yeah.
I remember like when I was in my depression years ago, what kept me going was like, I'm a mom. Like I can't
Hmm.
afford to like, you can't just lay in bed and not do anything. Like our kids bring out that mama bear. Like even if it's not for us, we'll do it for them, right?
Hmm. Yeah,
Mm,
that was the hardest. That was once out, that was the hardest part, is being
mm,
so deep down under and just getting out of bed and going through the motions at times and just
yeah,
doing it for her.
yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. So thankful for her.
Oh yeah.
Well, just curious, can you take us a little bit through your journey of, you were really deep into this relationship. You just wanted to be loved. You were confused. What led you to the point where you kind of like woke up or realized like I need to get out of this before it takes me out?
So just so many of the things that were happening.
Mhm.
And I have always been a believer. And it was, I know lots for many years of my life, I kept it just inside,
Mhm.
kept it to myself. So I know that God was probably not probably, he was the biggest part of pulling me out of that.
Mm,
Um, but one thing that really woke me up is my friend, who actually introduced me to boxing right soon after.
mm,
She was also my lead at work, so she was a step above me, and I reported to her, and
okay.
we were good friends and all of that as well. And she wrote me a letter and said, I see what's going on. I've been in this position with friends before. I know what happens next. If you decide to stay any longer, we can no longer be friends.
Mm,
And I was like, my head like spun around. And
yeah.
I was like, what?
Mm,
And in the letter, she said, I have already gone to our supervisor because I see what happens when he calls you at work. I've already gone to our supervisor. She said, it's not against you, but this, um, everybody involved, around here wants to help you get out of this. And don't want to see you, be dragged down any further and anything even more serious, as in physical abuse, to take place.
mm.
And she says, if you decide to stay, we can no longer be friends because I cannot sit back and watch another friend, because a friend of hers had died. I cannot sit back and
Oh,
watch another friend go through this. And I
wow.
was like, what?
Mm. Wow, that's
Yeah,
powerful. She was
yeah.
like
And
basically saying, I'm choosing me, like I love you, but
yes,
seeing what you're going through is gonna affect me and it's gonna take
yes,
me backwards then, basically.
yes.
Wow.
Yeah. And
Okay.
right there after, it's like a whole big chain of events happened. It was within the same week or so that he got even crazier and was saying much more crazy things than normal. And I was like, I've had it. That's it. I'm done. And I hung up. And so I was at work even. And from the span of 3:01 in the afternoon to right after 8 p.m. between cell phone and landline, back when we had landlines.
Mm-hmm.
So at least I haven't had one for years. He called me over 200 times.
Oh my goodness.
I even called his parents and told them what was happening. And I was like, I'm done. I'm like, he keeps calling. He's just both things. I'm afraid he's going to come. He had already broken into my house once when we had an argument
Mm,
before. I had the cops, right soon after watching my house. We had this code. Like I had to, if he was there, I would turn the light on out front.
mm.
It was right after Christmas, so I still had a red bulb in my so it was like
Oh.
I was the red light district. Um,
Mm.
so I had a red bulb for Christmas in my light, and they said
Okay.
they would drove by several times a day, especially in the evenings. And if the light was on, they would stop
Oh, okay.
because it was that bad. Because I would put a chair under my door as soon as my daughter would go to sleep,
Mm.
and then take it out before she got up in the morning so that she wouldn't know how severe things actually were. But
Yeah.
yeah, so
Wow.
it was that, and then it was, I mean, it didn't stop that night,
Mm.
but his parents got involved, and of course he spun it a different way, which I didn't care because I just wanted out. And I went
Yeah.
to my dad right after and just told him everything. And so thank God for friends that will stand up
Mm.
and tell you how it is and not just watch and enable you.
Yeah.
because I think that's probably one of the worst things that people can do.
Mm,
We think that we're being thoughtful and empathetic and loving by just being there for people, but sometimes it takes that, line in the sand being
mm,
drawn by somebody to really to wake you up. And I,
yeah.
to this day, uh, am just super grateful for that, and just where everything else led after that, of course.
Yeah, wow. I'm thankful that, you had that friend in your corner and, you know, um, that she was able to actually wake you up in a sense,
Mhm.
give you that wake up call.
Yeah.
So I know you just said as well, like it didn't just stop there. Like, so it's not like you get out or you decide one day to get out, it's done, right? There's a
Yeah.
process. How long from the time that you left him till like he actually left you alone and you were able to just begin your new life journey, would you say that it
Wow.
took?
For the following weeks, and then it tapered off a little bit after that. It was constant,
Mm,
constant. Sorry, I'm constant. I want to make this right. Just that, all of that stuff that we can
okay.
all just imagine hearing.
Mm-hmm.
It was showing up at my house. It was just all kinds of stuff. It was like, come get, please, come get your stuff. And then when I got there, trying to keep me there, and
Mm,
just, so it was bad. And even, man, so it's been almost 20 years.
yeah.
And literally, probably, I'd say a year to 2 years ago, I received an email from him.
Mm,
And I don't even remember what your daughter's name was, but I'm sorry, and blah blah. And I didn't even answer, you know.
wow.
Um it was just one of those
Mm,
things where I was like, nope, I'm not even entertaining this, even after all of this time, because
yeah.
my husband would probably have to do something or be led to do something that would be horrible.
Yeah.
But I mean, I received calls and texts and emails, and just, like the people at work would screen the calls for
Mm,
me, and so that I wouldn't pick up. I just would never pick up the phone, the
yeah.
one phone that he had the number to.
Yeah.
Um, so it took a while.
Mm,
It really took a while
gotcha.
to really come out of that. But that right there was just the beginning
Mm,
of of what you go through when you come out of something like this,
yeah.
ending it, and getting them to stop, the harassment, or stop the harassment, I guess it would be.
Yeah.
Then the real healing starts. The hard stuff starts in the years following that.
Mm,
And I think that when you get in another relationship, years later, that that's when even the harder healing starts,
mm,
because then all the triggers up,
mm,
to where you have to actually confront those things. You have to face all of those things and talk about those things if you
yeah.
want to heal and have a good relationship in the
Mm-hmm.
future.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And you've been married now, what was it?
11, little over 11 years.
11 years.
Yeah.
Awesome. So
Yeah.
there is light. There is light. Like you said you were high school sweethearts, right? You had said.
Yes. Yep.
So like, for women that might be listening to this, right? And they're like, man, like I want to get out. I don't know how to get out. It seems like too much. Maybe I should just stay. But you said something earlier that really touched me because I think sometimes people don't realize this, that abuse doesn't start they just start physically hitting you. It starts mentally and emotionally. And like you said in the beginning, everything was nice. And I think that's the factor where it confuses when
Hmm.
you're in a relationship because you're like, wait a minute, they seem like they were so nice. They went out of their way to do things like he's with me. I have a daughter, like,
Yep.
and everything was nice. And then it flips a switch, and then that's like the confusion because you thought they were this way, right?
Yeah.
And now they're acting that way.
Yeah. And they flip that switch nonstop from
Mm,
there. It's just nonstop. Flip, 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 you
mm,
know, in back and forth. I could even see. I could see his eyes change.
Mm,
And he would always wait. That's back when I drank. I very rarely drink anymore right now. God said to me a few years ago, we can stop this now.
mm.
So like plain as day, my husband and I were camping, and literally I woke up hungover, and I swear that I heard an audible voice that said, "Stop now, stop drinking."
Wow.
And like for a couple of years, I didn't even have a drink. And now,
Mm,
like for on vacation, I might have a margarita or something like that.
yeah.
But other than that, I very rarely ever drink.
Mm,
But yeah, it would be like I would get there, I would have to his house, I would have a beer or two, and I am a firm, I always have been a firm, don't drink and drive even after one drink,
yeah.
because I'm a lightweight, quite the lightweight.
Yeah.
So, but I would see it in his eyes as I
Mm,
would see this, it was like Jekyll and Hyde. So
mm.
I would see the face change, and I knew that the rest of
Wow.
the rest of the night was not going to be good
Wow.
at that
That's
point.
wow. Like you said, you would see his eyes change and his face change. Like it
Hmm.
was a different person.
Yep. Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I think, right there, it just, we're, you're a woman of faith. I'm a woman of faith.
Hmm.
It's something where like demons actually exist.
Hmm.
It's spiritual war. And a lot of times somebody else's demons can attack you.
Yes. Yes.
Like, and people don't realize too, like with alcohol, like you said,
Hmm.
um, I saw this meme one time, I think it was, that was talking about like, it's like when you go to a store, it says spirits, like it's fine wine and spirits.
Oh yeah. I never
And
thought
it was
about that.
like the bottles have spirits. So like that's
Yeah.
why people, in order to feel a little bit more relaxed, more chill, they're like, yeah, I'm not an outgoing person, but when I drink, when I consume alcohol, when I consume that
Yep.
spirit, I am then able to
Wow.
talk.
Yeah. That's powerful. Yeah.
And that hit me because I too, I my thing when I was like feeling down was alcohol, like
Hmm.
drinking whiskey and that was my thing. And one time
Mm.
I drank too much and it was not a good night. It's like God hit me like, you don't run to a bottle or anybody. You run to me. I didn't hear
Yeah.
the audible voice, but I felt it in my spirit. And I didn't drink for a while too. And now too, like if I go out or something,
Yeah.
it's here and there kind of thing. But I think that when you said that, it just reminded me of someone that I know and just the awareness, right? I think it's because this episode could even help maybe somebody who is an abuser
Hmm.
as well. Like you gotta see, we gotta break these generational curses on both sides
Yeah.
because it's
Yeah.
a
I
spiritual
agree.
war.
Oh yeah. Yeah, definitely.
But God is great, God is good, and now you've come on the other side. You remarried, you've healed, you've raised a beautiful woman. What has transcended from that, like all the goodness?
Oh my. Um, so number one is our business. You
Mm,
know, it literally, I turned to boxing as a form of fitness. Same friend who wrote me that letter took me to some boxing classes, and I fell in love with it. I always say that I opened my mental and emotional suitcase every time I pulled stuff out and left it on the floor in front of the guy.
mm,
And just then as the years went on, falling in love with that. And at one point God was like, hey, if this worked for you, this fitness thing, then it will work for others. There's others that need the same outlet that you had. And so just over the years, led me through all the things that I needed to go through in fitness. Sorry about my puppy.
it's okay.
Um, and ended up opening a studio.
Mm,
And one of my things that God has told me is that people are going to come into the studio who need a place, a safe haven, a safe place to an outlet, so to speak.
Yeah.
And it's happened so many times. It happened just last night. It
Mm,
was one of the most incredible things to hear a woman, share a little bit of her story at the end, and she's like, I need this.
mm.
And without even knowing my story, she had no idea. So
Wow.
yeah.
That's
So just
amazing.
having been leaving corporate America and having, businesses and being able to have that um time freedom, I put it in quotes because, no matter what you do, you still work. You
Yeah,
still, you still, you still provide a living. It's not
for
like I'm
sure.
just like sitting around in my, eating bonbons on the sofa all the time. Um, I still work, I work hard and that, but I do have that freedom to work around my husband's schedule, or I do have the freedom to make time for my daughter,
Mm,
and get a puppy that I can take with me almost everywhere I go, kind of thing. So if I wouldn't have gone through what I did, number one, other people could not take advantage of of the space that we have provided, and to know that they're not alone. But also, we would never be where we are now. And who
mm.
knows if my husband and I, would have gotten back together, after that 24-year break and
That's
ended up
powerful.
actually getting. Oh yeah, yeah. As we broke up, he was went into the service. I was still a senior in high school. We broke up, and literally 24 years later, he messaged me on social media, and then
Wow.
it all happened from there very quickly. So, but yeah, I remember the day that his name is Corey. I remember the day that I forgave him,
Mm,
and literally when I was praying, I forgave him, and I was like, I'm grateful for what happened to me because now I can help other people.
mm,
That was the most powerful part of healing that I believe happened. It allowed me to see things from a different perspective.
yeah,
And then it was just, everything else after that was easier, so to
yeah,
speak.
yeah.
So
That's powerful. I believe so much in that too. I've had those conversations like it's like a diamond. It's a
mm-hmm,
piece of coal, right? A rock,
yep,
and it's put through fire, it's put through pressure, and it becomes a diamond.
mm-hmm,
And, we use our story for God's glory.
yep,
And it's just a matter of us having faith, right? And trusting and believing in that He's going to help us get through and not giving up. And now you have a facility that is basically a beacon of His light. And now
mm-hmm,
you get to heal other people.
yeah,
I
yeah,
love that.
or yeah. So do I. I absolutely love it.
That's
So
awesome.
yeah.
Well, if there is a woman listening right now that is feeling maybe hopeless, in a very abusive relationship and she just does not know what to do, are there any words of encouragement that you can give to her?
Um, Lean on your faith, number one. Um, uh, and ask for help.
Mm,
I learned that I could not do it by myself. These human bodies, and our not our spirit, as in the Holy Spirit, but our minds in that, um, they cannot do it by themselves. We need support. We need a village. We need people that are going to help us in multiple different ways,
mm,
and we need others to be able to stand up for us as well. And if somebody doesn't have that type of support or village in their life, there are services out there, that you can find. I'm pretty sure a quick search online could produce that kind of thing. But it is, when you feel hopeless, you're not there's still more hope.
mm,
It's not gone. It's and there's never no hope in this world,
mm,
because Jesus was here and he died on the cross for us. There is never no hope. There's always people that will help, and that will help lift you up and help pull you out of that well.
mm.
And you have to ask for it.
Yes, speak up.
Yeah,
Speak up, right?
exactly. Yep.
Yes. And thank you for that. I'm sure that will be very helpful to to someone listening to this. And if there's anyone who would like to connect with you to learn more about your gym, maybe visit it or just follow you on social media, how can they get a hold of you?
So super easy. Literally, it's either Envision Train Fitness on both Instagram and Facebook, or Theresa P. Fackler on both Instagram and Facebook. I have it super easy for both of them. And you'll see a lot of things in fitness and faith crossover in and out of both of them as well. And even, well, like I said, on Envision Train, the Envision Train website, which is just envisiontrain.com,
Mhm.
there's a short video of, that was taken years ago, but and that talks a little bit more about my story in that. But yeah, and somebody can always reach out to me through one of those.
Awesome. And I will be putting her links in the description for this podcast episode as well, if you want to connect with her. Thank you, Theresa, so much for being here, for sharing your story. It was a great pleasure and honor to have you here.
Thank you so much. Thank you so, so much. I
Absolutely.
hope it helps. I hope listening to my story, and even somebody else's story, helps somebody to know that there is hope on the other side.
Yes.
Even when everything looks dark and you feel like you're underwater. That's how I used to describe it. I used to feel like I was
Mm,
underwater and just drowning, and there was
mm,
nobody there. There are hands in the water ready to pull you out.
mm.
You just have to grab onto them.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much. So true. So if you listen to this episode and it was helpful to you, please share it with someone. Or if you feel like someone needs to listen to this, um, please also share it on your social media. Please leave a star rating and review so that this episode can be shared more on the podcast platforms. And also, if you're not following me on Instagram, follow me on at Inspire Her Mindset, and also on Facebook at Rebecca Fillmore. And thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll talk to you guys next time. God bless.